Hey there, it's Bike Touring Mike here. This week I'm taking you along my normal commute from work back to home again, and as you can see we have some marvelous winter weather today. We just got maybe 4 or 5 inches of snow yesterday, and we have really nice early spring weather today. So perfect conditions for some winter commuting. So this is also my first commute for a while. I haven't really cycled for the months of January and February, so I'm quite out of shape. So I'm hoping these 6 or 7 weeks of bike commuting before the touring season starts will do wonders for my shape. The town we're passing through right now is called Skelleftehamn, and the length of my commute is about 17 kilometers from work back to home again. Coming up on your right here, the lady is using a common Swedish transportation device called a kick, and I'm pretty sure you can only see this method of transportation in Sweden. So the main reason for me not cycling that much during January and February isn't that it's really cold, or I mean it is really cold, but it's also very dark here in northern Sweden. So during January and February the sun usually goes up at around 8 o'clock in the morning and sets at 2. So I don't really like cycling in the dark, both for safety reasons, and I also don't really like it. Just takes my energy instead of getting energy from the sun like I'm getting right now. Today the temperature is just below the freezing point. I think we have -1 Celsius here, and this morning we had about -10. So it's quite a change in the morning compared to the afternoon, which makes bike commuting a logistical nightmare, since you have to carry all your extra clothes back home in the afternoon that you're not needing. So you really gotta be good at planning on what you're wearing, and I'm using a kind of layer on layer principle. So I just shed off some layers when I'm going back in the afternoon. Otherwise I'm basically wearing the same thing in the morning as in the afternoon. We're approaching a big intersection here, and this can be a bit tricky sometimes, but I was lucky this day, I think. On my left here we can see the Skellefteå River, and for those of you who have been following me for quite a while, you know I've taken a couple of bike tours along the Skellefteå River, and the river joins the sea out by where I work. So this on our left here is the end of the Skellefteå River, so it's quite big. Well, what do you know, we have another kick ahead of us. So some of you may wonder what type of bike I'm riding on my winter commute, and I have this designated winter bike that I use with studded tires, and I just use it during the winter months. Otherwise it's locked up in my shed, and it's not a fancy bike by any means. I bought this bike maybe 20 years ago, and it was my primary bike back then, but now it's kind of dropped down in the hierarchy, so now it's just my designated winter bike. And the reason why I have this winter bike is that if you're cycling in snow and winter conditions, the road takes quite a toll on your bike, both because they add salt to the roads and also sand and gravel, so everything kind of wears down pretty quick. So I really don't want to abuse my other bikes, so I have this kind of bike that takes up all the heavy punching for the team. Now we're approaching probably the nicest part of my bike commute. This is called the Canoe. This is called the Canoe Bay in a little town called Ursviken. They also have a typical Swedish outdoor gym. I doubt that anyone's using it during winter though, but during the summer you can often see a lot of people using the outdoor gym. As you probably noticed, if you've paid attention, I haven't encountered that many cars yet. And most of my bike commute is like this. There's a big highway over here to the right, and this is kind of a side road to that one. So you encounter a car every now and then, but usually it's mostly like this. People out walking their dogs or running or just taking a recreational walk. So I have a quite pleasant bike commute route back home. During the summer, my commute takes about 40 minutes, but this morning I think it took just about an hour to get to work. Riding with studded tires, plus the snow gives you a lot more friction, plus you're wearing a bunch of extra clothes, so everything is a bit tougher. Plus you don't really, when you're riding with studded tires, you don't really ever get to relax. You have to pedal all the way since you're not rolling. Even though you're going downhill, you have to pedal. So that's your typical Swedish car. When you're 18 years old, you buy a Volvo from the 90s and pimp it up with some nice speakers that are usually worth more than the car itself. Now we're approaching the halfway point of my commute, and this is maybe the only... Oh! Lucky, just avoided the train crossing here. Yeah, so I'm approaching the halfway point of my commute, and we have to cross this big highway now, so... But I think we're a bit lucky with the traffic here. Just gotta let these trucks pass and then we're off again. So now I'm back on a new cycle path here again, and this one takes me almost the whole way home. I think this one is maybe 6 kilometers or so. And for those of you who have seen my video from last year when I commuted to work at minus 20 degrees Celsius, I took another road back home. I put a link up here in the corner if you want to see that video. This is a more direct route back home, and it also goes by a thing that I want to show you. A thing that the whole town of Skellefteå that I'm living in is talking about right now. And as you can see on the ground here, we don't really have a lot of ice up here in northern Sweden. We have a nice sheet of snow instead. So it never really gets slippery. The snow gives you really good grip on the ground. So that combined with my studded tires means that I really don't have to fear crashing, which is really nice. You don't have to worry about that. The best thing about bike touring in March is that most people here in Sweden start taking out their bikes in May. So for the month of March and April, I'm kind of the king of the road. I have the whole bike path to myself. So this is what I wanted to show you. Now you're just looking at a slope of snow here, but to the right here, just above this hill, they are building Europe's biggest battery plant for electrical cars. So there are a lot of German car makers like BMW and Volkswagen, I think, that are involved in this project, and I think the factory is supposed to be up and running in just short of a year. So it really means a lot for a little town such as Skellefteå to get a really big employer like this. I think they say that there are supposed to be 3,000 people working in the factory over there. Ooh, it's getting really windy. It's 3:30 right now, and as you can see, the sun is standing really low. So I think the sun sets at around 5 now in northern Sweden. So the days are still kind of short, but compared to January, it's really nice to get longer and longer days every day here. And now this bike path is finished and I'm entering this quite small but still heavy traffic road. This road goes through an industrial park, so it's usually quite heavy traffic, but I think we're just early of the rush hour, so hopefully there won't be that many cars today. The road in this section is really bad. There are a lot of trucks going on this road, so they kind of compress the snow and then you get these sort of lumpy roads as we have here. And going back to the electrical cars, I don't know how it is in the other countries, such in the United States, but here in Europe and Sweden in particular, electrical cars is kind of the topic on everyone's tongues. Almost everyone I know who's buying a new car is buying an electrical car. The government is also subsidizing electrical cars, so if you buy an electrical car, you can get maybe $5,000 off the list price, and if you're buying a big SUV, you have to pay $5,000 extra. So I think it's called a bonus-malus system. So the big polluting cars pays for the electrical cars, which is kind of a good system, I think. We need to get this we need to get these big fuel non-efficient cars off the roads and get people onto bikes or electrical cars instead. This road was terrible. So as you can see back there, even though there are some icy patches, it's really not dangerous going on them as long as you're going in a straight line. When you're turning, that's when it's a bit trickier. So make sure you have some snow underneath your tires when you're making a turn here. My commute is really flat, but of course the only hill I have to climb is at the end of the ride. So it's been a quite easy ride so far, and now I just have to make it up this small hill here to this suburb called Morebacke, where I live. And this intersection can be a bit tricky as well, but it seems like we're lucky today. So we had a quite pleasant commute today. Not like the one I filmed the last time where I cycled at minus 20 degrees Celsius. If you want to look at that video, you can just click the link up here. Otherwise, thanks for riding with me today, and until next time, have a good one.